Hey all. So, I've thought long and hard about doing the next video. I'm going to show clips. I do have permission from every single person that I interviewed, and they had a choice between showing their face or not, just their voice, whatever. But I just want to make that clear because there are critics out there that will say that people should never be shown. However, I feel like giving them an option gives them a voice. Do I have permission to film you?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure I have your permission to film. Okay. Oh, this is comfy. So, say what you will, but each person was asked if I had permission to record them. So, I just want to start off by saying that today is March 6th, 2025, and in our wonderful city of Scranton, Pennsylvania, there was another homeless camp that was given 48 hours to evict. All right, kick-out time is at noon today. That 48 hours was up today at 11:59 in the morning. So I talked to a few people that this affected. All right, so you live around in this area, right?
Yes.
And how do you feel about all the signs getting put up? The people that are getting kicked out today?
They're making it illegal to be homeless.
Are you worried that you're going to be next?
Yes.
Are they giving you any alternative places to go?
No, not at all.
So it's just pick up your stuff and figure it out?
Yes.
Do you have anything to fall back on?
No.
And all the shelters are full and all the funding is pretty much used up. So if you were kicked out today, what would you have to do?
I'd have to find another illegal spot to camp at.
Would you have any way to get your stuff there at all?
No, I'd have to carry it by hand.
Probably
and
for
make
quite a
several
distance.
trips. Yeah.
And they just tell you to get out, and you say, well, where am I supposed to go? What do they tell you?
I haven't. I've been strategically moving around to avoid
that part.
them. Yeah. Yeah. I usually could sense a pattern of where they're about to go, and I could go somewhere where they have already gone.
Okay. Well, thank you for your time.
Yep.
So, I see that you have the signs up here, up right up on the hill, saying that the trespassing is up at 11:59 today. Mm-hmm. So where do you plan on going?
I don't know. I mean, my cards were stolen by homeless people, even my insurance card. I have to return all them. My phone shut off. They stole all my clothes. They stole a Dooney and Burke bag. I got thrown out of my apartment in Westside because my roommate was stealing the rent, not me.
And there's no apartments that anybody can afford at this point.
So I had an apartment in Southside that I could have rented.
Right.
But they stole my cards.
And I saw your...
And the realtor wouldn't tell me where my stuff was.
Yeah.
And that judge let him get away with it.
And I saw that this is your tent. Like, it's clean. And this is somebody else's that they left here.
Yep.
But you don't know whose it is. That's a really nice blanket, too.
Yeah, I know.
But, I mean, you have a nice, sturdy tent. Now, when they tell you to leave at noon, how are you going to get it out of here?
I don't know. All I have is dirty clothes left. I can't even call anybody.
And what if...
my phone is shut off because they stole my cards.
And what happens if you ask the police where you're supposed to go?
Well, there was an emergency shelter, but the city shut it down.
And I know that the day shelter, that's like during the day, but the night shelter, you can only be there for so long. But what would happen to all your stuff? Because you can only take a backpack.
Yeah. And now all I have left are dirty clothes. And one Anne Klein coat and 2 pairs of shoes.
Okay. What do you think your biggest hurdle is as far as like being able to actually get help?
My phone's not even on. Who am I going to call?
So you don't even have a way of getting communication to anybody. Wow.
I mean, they're looking for them. I mean, I was sleeping on my
To make
purse,
sure that everything was okay.
and it got stolen anyway.
So
All
now,
my cards.
when have you been kicked out of any campsites ever before this?
I've never been homeless like this before.
So when they come, what do you expect for it to happen?
I don't know.
And after watching it so many times, in person, on TV, listening to people afterwards, there's a lot of people that want to basically pretend it doesn't happen, or good for them, glad they had to move, or nobody wanted to see them there anyway, or all of the other thousands of excuses, not in my backyard. Now, I hate to break it to those people, but if you live in the city, it is your backyard. The problem is that there's lack of places for people to go. There's lack of funding.
Actually, I read in the newspaper, Lackawanna County has no funding whatsoever. They're actually in the negative. They're about in the negative about $100,000 or something like that.
Okay.
So, for homeless people, that's a big yikes.
The rent is astronomical. There's people out there with mental illness, but they don't have proper insurance, so they can't get treated. There's people that, they got injured and couldn't keep up with the medical bills, so they had to pick and choose what they paid for. So now they're on the street, but hey, at least they're healthy and cold. It's a big problem throughout the whole U.S. It's a big problem in a lot of places. Well, not a lot, but enough. And it's very problematic here. Now, we just had a gentleman pass away, and he was a wonderful asset to our community. And his name was Tom. And he used to push his red shopping cart everywhere, or buggy if you're one of those weird people who lives down south. But he would push it everywhere and collect cans and bottles, and make it look a little bit nicer. So, he was a great guy, and people noticed him and they recognized him, and it's funny to me because I hear a lot of people say all homeless people are bad. They're all drug addicts. They want to be out there. They have other options. Get a job. But that guy was pretty cool. Well, what makes him different from other people? There's a bunch of people that my group feeds every week that have jobs. But you just need one bad thing to happen. And it could be something minor that just kind of dominoes. Yeah. And it really bothers me because people don't realize how close anybody is to being homeless. Last year, my husband broke his ankle. He had to get a plate and 8 screws put into his ankle, and he did all of his paperwork and everything. And if he was single, he would be homeless right now because of a computer error. And it could be something like that. So you never know. So don't judge people. There's plenty of people that have jobs. You don't even know that they're homeless. Now, I spent quite a few hours the other day looking up statistics because I wanted to see what makes our city different. And it was pretty disgusting, actually. So I can't even find a number of how many people are homeless in Scranton because not everybody shows up to the day shelters. Not everybody, oh wait, we only have one night shelter. 26 people. We fit 26 people in that building. That's it. Everybody else is in their cars or in tents or just in a sleeping bag on the sidewalk, if they're lucky. So I can't even tell you the exact number of homeless people are in Scranton because there's no good way to tell. A lot of people don't want to be seen, so it could be 200. Don't know. As far as 2022, the national average, 582,462. Yeah. That's too many. One's too many, but that's a lot. And that's not even counting all of them. That's just the ones that they could find. Same as Scranton. In 2022, the rent in Scranton, the average was $1,120. 2023, it was $1,387. So we were still below the national average. It was about $500 less, $400 to $500 less for each year. The average income in Scranton was $48,776 in 2022. That same year, the national average was $77,540. It's a big difference. It's a huge difference. In 2023, Scranton was $49,531. And in 2023, the national average was $80,610. Once again, huge difference. In 2022, the number of homeless children in Scranton alone was 188. And in 2023, it was 248. 2024 has not been posted yet. But throughout the country, the national average in 2022 was 1.2 million. And in 2023, it was almost 1.4 million. Homeless does not necessarily mean you're living on the streets. You could be living on somebody's couch. You could be cramped in a small hotel room, barricaded in with your child and not being able to pay another day and wondering where you're going to go because there's no shelters left. There's no funding left. So what do you do? Yeah. In Scranton, 2022, the population below the poverty line, 19.6%. The national average that year was 11.5. In 2023, the population in Scranton below the poverty line was 22%. And the national average went down to 11.1. But we were pretty close as far as the percentage of Scranton citizens with health care. So just over 90% for Scranton and the national average. So hey, at least we're good at, well, semi-good at something. So in 2023, 970,806 people experienced homelessness for the first time. That's the highest on record ever. pretty disturbing numbers. I'm actually shocked that more people aren't outraged. But what I did notice is that people are always in a hurry to look the other way. They pretend that people don't exist unless it fits their agenda. They pretend that people don't exist unless they are running for an office, or, you know, they just want to look at me, and they don't actually care about people. Thankfully, I belong to a group of people that actually gives a damn about everyone. Whether you're homeless or just need a hot meal, or you're struggling, or you just had a surgery and, you know, you can't stand for a while. Well, let's make sure that they have something to eat, so that that's one less thing that they have to worry about. And we take care of each other, because nobody's going to do it for us. The thing that gets me is that when you watch these videos, is that when they're removed from these locations where they're camping, they're not given an alternate place to go. You can't stay here. Go figure it out. But there's no funding. There's no place for them to go. So they have to just find another place to set up camp. It's really hard to explain to somebody, you know, in their late 50s, in their 60s, how to be homeless. But a lot of times that happens because of a medical issue. Put your life on hold. I've seen people that had colostomy bags and they're living in their cars and they have no alternatives. There's a beautiful, wonderful woman, and she sleeps in her car. And she's on dialysis. She's waiting for a kidney. This shouldn't happen. It shouldn't happen. And we're punishing people for being homeless on top of it. Can you imagine not having anything and then getting in trouble for not having anything? In 2018, there was a federal court appeal. The Ninth Circuit of Court Appeals, and it was Martin versus the City of Boise. And it cited that people could not be punished for sleeping outside if they had no other shelter available. Because according to the Eighth Amendment, that's actually considered cruel and unusual punishment. So by removing these people from these places, they're actually going against their rights. Like, we don't have any other options here. There's no other options. We have an emergency shelter when it gets too cold. We have one shelter for individual people that holds 26 people. And everybody else is just go figure it out. So by them removing them from those camps today, they're actually going against their rights. According to the Eighth Amendment, they're actually going against their rights. And that's some pretty messed up stuff. It is embarrassing. It's embarrassing that our mayor is sitting comfortably in her house. She's hanging up cute little flags in our city. for a parade that doesn't matter, where a bunch of drunk people are going to stumble all over themselves. And then we have people that are trying to figure out where they're going to eat. The priorities are just not there. They're just not there. They don't exist. People have no compassion anymore until something's right in their face. And I think just putting ourselves, like our whole group, we've put ourselves in people's faces so much that they have to be aware now. It's sad that we have to get loud about things that should be common sense. It could be anybody. It could be your sister. It could be your grandmother. It could be your son. They could be homeless at any point. You could be homeless at any point. And we treat these people like second-class citizens. Most of them are doing the best they can. Yes, there are some people that have addiction problems. There are some people that have mental health issues. There are people that are too proud to reach out. But there are people that genuinely want help, and there's so many roadblocks. I went down to our career link and said, what can somebody do to get a job if they don't have an address? And that rude woman behind the counter, or behind her comfy little desk, said, well, they can come here and we can see what we can do. And I said, no, but I need to know, what can somebody do if they don't have an address? And she said, well, that's not your problem. They can come down here and discuss it. So I had to explain to her in the smallest, simplest words that people would have to walk miles to get there, to have her answer a question that's probably one sentence long, instead of telling me so that I can tell them. I would rather have an answer to give to people instead of making them walk that far just to get turned away with no answers or very little information and come back tomorrow. If I'm having this much trouble getting answers, I can just imagine the amount of hoops that people have to jump through to survive getting through anything. You can't, there's so much denial when it comes to city officials, when it comes to citizens. Just in general, people just, for the majority, just don't care, or they don't want to see it. Out of sight, out of mind. I've gotten death threats. I've had some of the most atrocious things that people have said. I've had a message where somebody said, if you burn a tent down with somebody inside of it, at least it gets rid of the problem. You just sweep it away. These are actual responses from people. But if it was their family member, that would be a different story. And while it's nice that, we hand out sleeping bags and tents and make food, there's still so much to do. And there's actual people in this city that have the jobs to get people on their feet. So why are we the ones that have the responsibility of doing their jobs for them, but we don't get paid for it? Are they not getting paid enough? Do they just not care enough? Is it just a job? Or do they genuinely care about people and they're burned out? So why aren't these questions being asked? There's We had people start jobs this week. They were so ecstatic that they got a job. So for those people that say, well, go get a job and you won't be homeless. Well, there are people out there with jobs that are homeless. Now, go get a place to live because you have a job. Okay, so now you have to come up with your first month's rent, your last month's rent, your security deposit. If you're living in a hotel, you're giving the hotel all your money. Good luck with a direct deposit, because if you don't have an address, yeah, there's a lot of roadblocks. Go get a bank account without an address. Go fill out your tax forms for work without an address. All those people that say that it's so easy, I always say the same thing and nobody ever answers me. Nobody wants to have logical thought. So what I always tell them is, okay, so you get a backpack and you have one change of clothes and you lost your wallet. So you don't have that. You don't have cash, you don't have cards, you don't have your ID. You don't have a car. Consider your house gone. You are homeless with a backpack. Can you get back on your feet in a week? 2 weeks? A month? What would it take for you to actually get back to where people think you should be? Or for the ones saying it, how long would it take for you to get back where you think these people should be? But nobody ever answers. They just reply with insults. They redirect to another question. They never actually answer it, though. Are you willing to sleep outside for a night? See what it's like? Go to the soup kitchen? Humble your ass? Are you ready to do that? Because I would love to see it. I would love to see all the people that talk so big. I want to see them do what they keep telling everybody that they should know how to do, or that they should be doing, or that they can do. I want to see them do it. I would love to. But here are the interviews from today. And yes, I do have permission from everybody. And I just want to point out that the woman in the video with the campsite, the trash bags in those campsites, she actually ran out of trash bags. None of that was her trash. First thing she did when she put her tent up was use trash bags to clean up all the trash around her, and she ran out of trash bags. And that's why there was still trash there. None of that was hers. And I know this for a fact because I've been there before. I saw what it was like before she lived there, when somebody else's tent was there. She cleaned that place up. So before anybody says, well, all the campsites are dirty, all the campsites are this. No, they're not. That is a big misconception, just like most of what everybody else says. She is a nice lady, and she cleaned that place up really well. So she did the city a favor right before they shoved their foot up her ass. I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. That's basically what happened. They just spit in her face and told her to go. And she was not bothering anybody. And I went over there at 9 o'clock this morning, and I brought her a coffee, and we sat and we talked. And then we did an interview. So keep that in mind when you look at her camp area. Okay? So let me know what you think. I know that they are getting rid of the camps next to and behind Sheets, where Geisinger is. Are you affected by that in any way?
very much affected by that.
How so?
One, being Native American Cherokee, Southern Native American Cherokee, and having the cops push me around all the time, but not having the proper documentation from the Native American Bureau. They have a law which is called In the Spirit of the Law, so they know that I'm Native, but they still push me around.
Just because you don't have that proper paperwork.
Because I don't have that proper paperwork. Which, even then, by federal law, I should be able, by squatters' rights, to stay where I'm at as long as it's public. And actually, not even. It doesn't matter if it's private or public. If they did not catch me in the act of putting my tent down, they cannot kick me out.
Okay. And so are you one of the campsites that's being affected today?
Yeah.
So what time do you have to evacuate, or
they give us about a 2-day notice to evacuate everything, and then they come through and they just put everything in the trash.
What do you mean by everything?
Well, from what I remember last year, what they did when they had their ordinance up, they made sure that everybody was kicked out, and then they went through with the bulldozer and the what do you call it, the garbage can,
the dumpsters.
The dumpsters. And they just picked up everybody's tents, everybody's blankets, everything, and just tossed them out.
Now, what if you forget something important?
Then you're out.
So, do you have a plan of where you're going to go, or just wing it?
No plan. Oh, actually, for me, I do have a plan.
Do most people?
But no, a lot of people don't, which is sad. Like, I'm more free-spirited. I don't mind being on the street. But a lot of people that are elderly, it makes a lot more sense, they need a lot more funding. If the mission is closing down, then, this actually, I read in the newspaper, Lackawanna County has no funding whatsoever. They're actually in the negative. They're about in the negative about $100,000 or something like that.
Okay.
So, for homeless people, that's a big yikes.
So how long have you been homeless in Scranton?
On and off. Altogether, maybe like a year.
Okay.
I've been homeless.
And I know that I did interview somebody earlier, and they are new to this whole situation. Is there any advice that you would give to them?
Yeah.
Them being removed from that place?
I would definitely, as soon as you become homeless, sign up for housing, sign up for any sort of job that you can look for. It doesn't matter. Just sign up for anything, and even if you're like scared of, maybe if you're a felon, something like that, make sure just sign up for everything. It doesn't really matter.
Okay.
Trump is a felon. So that means they got to waive us off for most jobs and stuff nowadays. But I mean, I'm not a felon. But, I understand that once you get to that point, then there's not much you can do in life. But I would just sit there.
There's one of the tents. As you can see, it's nice and clean. There's the part that flew off from last night. Everything is organized. Tent site is always clean in this area. Person lives here. Really nice. Nothing bad. Not given an alternative place to go. So, it's pretty disgraceful.